قال الله عز وجل في كتابه العزيز أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن ربك لبالمرصاد آمنا بالله وصدق الله العلي العظيم. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, when we observe the episode of Karbala from the time Imam Hussain alayhi salatu salam left from Medina to Mecca, then to Kufa, towards Kufa, the events of Karbala, the events after Karbala from Kufa to Sham, and then back to Al-Madinah. We know that Imam Hussain alayhi salatu salam and the Ahlul Bayt went through the worst tragedy ever. In this lifetime, Imam Hussain alayhi salatu salam and his family members suffered the greatest humiliation. Many times we mourn the martyrdom of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu salam and we look at the details of Karbala, but sometimes we forget the tragedy that affected the family members, going all the way back to Kufa, then going to Sham through a treacherous route. We see that the women being unveiled. We see that the children in fear. As Sayyidah Zainab sallallahu alayhi has said that they didn't even know if someone would capture them, if some man would take them, as they would have been prisoners of war. The humiliation that Imam Hussain and his family members suffered, this humiliation was a humiliation that can never be removed from the Muslim Ummah. It is a humiliation of which the stain itself will never leave the Ummah. I just had a conversation with a brother from Ahlul Sunnah, and my goal in that conversation was just to have him not only do his own research, but if he wants to study in Islamic seminary, of Ahlul Sunnah, study in the Islamic seminary of Ahlul Sunnah, learn about Khabar al-Ahad, learn about Khabar al-Mutawatir, learn about the singular narration, learn about the narration of the numerous chains of transmission. Because if you do not understand the usul al-fiqh, and if you do not understand how the ulama derive a narration, someone can tell you something and you'll believe it. Why? Because the Prophet said this and I accept it. But you do not know the history of a hadith. You do not know how things happen in the ummah. You do not know that the events of Karbala, they try to cover it so much that you cannot see the truth. I told him that I did my own research. I said, I want to know if me being formerly of Ahlul Sunnah, we're all Muslim, but I was under that persuasion of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. I wanted to know what the truth was. So I decided to do my research. No one really does that, I was an outlier. Most people will not do that. Most people are Shi'i and they will remain Shi'a till they die. Most people are follow Sunni madhab, they will remain Sunni till they die. But very few people are going to want to know what the actual truth is. Those are the outliers. Those are the ones who say, I don't care. I told myself, I don't care. If I find that my madhab is wrong, then I will leave the madhab. I made that decision before I did my research. And if I find out that my madhab is correct, then I will stay in my madhab, no problem. This brother was the same age I was when I did my research, subhanAllah. Exactly the same age. He told me his age. And I advised him, brother, if you want to debate with the Shia, then at least read our book. right? At least you'll know what we say, and you can debate upon that. Otherwise, if you want to know the truth, do your research. Know clearly what it is. Know the differences. Don't just say, oh, you know, such and such person said this. And the brother gave me a video before he left on YouTube, and I looked at the video, and I saw the person who was a debater. He's well known in Ahlul, and I said, oh, brother, I know this brother. You know, I don't want to mention his name because I don't want to give him any type of, any more publicity than he already has. But he showed me the video. I said, I know who this person is. Brother, do your research so you can say you know from your research what the truth is. Don't follow because someone says this or he knows how to debate. Learn the truth. You know, in my speech, I was saying that if you come to a person who is not a sympathizer of Imam Hussain, someone who did not recognize Ahlul Bayt, Walaya, if you come to that person tells you, oh, what happened in Karbala was a long time ago. You know, it was not good. We're sad about it. But really, you shouldn't be doing all this mourning. SubhanAllah. These individuals tell us that we should not mourn. My dear brothers and sisters, we should be pouring our hearts out. We should be crying so much of the tragedy that befell Imam Hussain alayhi salam. The tragedy that befell his womenfolk, the children. Again, the women were concerned. They didn't know if they would be captured. I'm talking about an individual capturing a woman saying, I want this person. You know this happens. So Sayyidah Zainab said this in her statement. So we need to think about it on a deeper level. We mourned and cried over the martyrdom. As I said, the spears against Imam Hussain, the arrows that pierced his body, about the fact that they chopped him into pieces. They used the horses to stomp on Imam Hussain. They took his head, they took his clothing, they took everything and left him bare on the ground. But the tragedy did not end with that. It just begun. Parading the women from city to city without their veils. Humiliation. They were humiliated. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed for them to go through this trial. This is the trial of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Ahlul Bayt alayhi Islam. Because as I mentioned in my khutbah yesterday, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to create gold from the people. We talked about the purification of gold. We have the Imam Ali alayhi said, Yuftanuna, right? That you will be tested like the test of gold. Like yuftan al-dhahab, testing of the gold. And we find that gold goes through a rigorous process to be separated from the other elements. And then it gets burned for an average of about 2,900 degrees Fahrenheit. And then eventually a gold nugget or ingot is about 80% pure gold. There's still 20% impurity. And then that gold goes through a further purification to get it to be 99.9%. Al-Imam Hussain alayhi salam, Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, they were tested and they proved that they were golden. My dear brothers and sisters, Imam Ali and Ahlul Bayt, Imam Ja'far Sadiq in particular, have stated that the Shia will be tried and tested like gold. We have not been tested like that yet. From that, only a few will be left that are golden. The rest will be, maybe Allah have mercy upon them, but they could not pass this test. Please allow salawat. We see that Fatima Zahra, salamu alayha, she mourned this shahadat of Imam Hussain. She mourned about her children being persecuted at Karbala. We see that Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, it is said that he mourned for the rest of his life. And you know, funny, some people come to Imam Zain al-Abidin still looking to support his walaya, to go and remove the tyrant. Do they want the same situation that happened to Imam Hussain happen to Imam Zain al-Abidin? And then some say, well, you know what? He doesn't want to rise up. I'm going to rise up. Do you know that what he went through? So we continue to see the tragedy. Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam, something was put together called a Sahif al-Kamila, a Sajjadiyya. This book has dua and supplications that, based upon the mentality, based upon the taqwa of the reciter, these dua can move mountains. We have his famous, it's a book called Risalat al-Huquq, the book of rights, teaching the people the rights to each other and so forth and so on. Imam Zain al-Abidin began the basis by teaching his son Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, the fifth Imam, teaching him to such an extent that the basis of fiqh became clarified for the ummah through Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu. My dear brothers and sisters, the tragedy of Karbala and the capturing of the women of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam should revive in the ummah, and in certain people should revive in them the ancestral memories of humiliation, the ancestral humiliation of generations of enslavement, of torture, of persecution around the world. Many of us were not free from this not too long ago, such that when we hear about Imam Hussain and his family and the captives and the enslavement and being thrown in the prisons, this should arouse in some of us the ancestral memories of humiliation. Because we can relate to that. It should bring about more supporters of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu salam to identify with those tragedies. My dear brothers and sisters, we must open our hearts to this tragedy. This tragedy that in reality was an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment. Put yourselves in the mind of Sayyidah Zainab Salaam alayha. Put yourself in the mind of Sayyidah Sakina, Sayyidah Fatima Sughra. Put yourselves in the mind of them, humiliated by Yazid's forces, forced to be on camels without litters, be forced to be paraded throughout the cities without coverings, being laughed at. Do you think that most people were just sad? No, they were laughing, joyful, parading and happy about what happened to the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Put yourself in their shoes. After the atrocities and the trials that they went through, we ourselves, we need to weep and mourn much more, because we, as the followers of Ahlul Bayt, okay, forget about those who do not follow Ahlul Bayt. We, as the followers of Ahlul Bayt, where has our mourning got us? Where have we used the mourning of Karbala and Imam Hussain and Ahlul Bayt? Where have we used that to reform ourselves and our communities? Where is our result? How come it has not brought about the change that we need to have? How come we have not prepared for our next generation? We have not prepared for them to be stronger in faith after we pass away. Facts. These are facts. As a community, we are going astray. So why are we not mourning that we have not been true to Abu Abdullah al-Hussain? As we all have said, and we should say, Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum. Oh, I wish, oh Imam Hussain, oh, I wish that I was with you in Karbala. We're lying, you know that? We don't want to be in that situation. But we have to say it for ajr. We have to say that to help influence the heart. يا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز فوزا عظيما. I wish that I was with you, O Hussein, for I would have gotten a great reward. فأفوز فوزا عظيما. The tragedy of Karbala and the events of Karbala that we discussed in these majalis from the 10 nights of Muharram and then the weekly majalis we had, these events were intended to spark something in ourselves, to go towards true change in ourselves, our families, and in our community. That Imam Hussein should be a springboard towards the change that we need to see in society. My dear brothers and sisters, when Imam Al-Hussain had been martyred in Karbala, and the family of the Prophet went from Karbala to Kufa to Sham, and then from Sham back towards Medina, it is said that Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam and his family, before they entered Al-Madinah from Sham, he gathered the people outside, and before entering made the following statement. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. Praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the most gracious, the most merciful, owner of the day of judgment, بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، الذي بعد فارتفع في السماوات العلا وقرب فشهد النجوى. Originator of all creatures, he who is remote and exalted in the highest heavens, he is near and bears witness to what happens in secret. نحمده على عظائم الأمور وفجائع الدهور وألم الفجائع. We praise him for the great things, the calamities of the ages, the pain of the calamities. ومضاضة اللواذع وجليل الرزع وعظيم المصائب الفاضعة الكاظة الفادحة الجائحة. The swell of the stinging, the greatness of the grief, and the heaviness of catastrophic, fatal, and pandemic sadness. أيها القوم إن الله وله الحمد ابتلانا بمصائب جليلة وثلمة في الإسلام عظيمة. O people, Allah and praise be to Him, afflicted us with great calamities and a great void in Islam. قتل أبو عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام وسبي نساؤه وصبيته. Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam was killed. His women and boys were taken captive. وَدَارُوا بِرَأْسِهِ فِي الْبُلْدَانِ مِنْ فَوْقَ عَامِلِ السِّنَانِ. And his head, and Imam Hussein's head, was taken to countries over which the teeth of Imam Hussein were removed. وَهَذِهِ الرَّزِيَّةُ الَّتِي لَا مِثْلَهَا رَزِيَّةٌ And this is a disaster that has no equal. أيها الناس فأي رجالات منكم يسرون بعد قتله. O people, which men among you are happy after his killing? أي فؤاد لا يحزن من أجله, or which heart does not grieve for him? أية عين منكم تحبس دمعها وتظن عن إنهمالها, or which eye among you withholds its tears and grieves over its pouring? Which eye among you withholds its tears and grieves over its mourning, over its pouring? فَلَقَدْ بَكَتِ السَّبْعَ الشِّدَادُ لِقَتْلِهِ, because already the seven mighty ones wept for his killing. وَبَكَتِ الْبِحَارُ بِأَمْوَاجِهَا, and the seas wept with their waves. وَالسَّمَاوَاتُ بِأَرْكَانِهَا وَالْأَرْضُ بِأَرْجَائِهَا, and the heavens with their corners and the earth with its limbs, they all wept. والأشجار بأغصانها والحيتان ولجج البحار, and the trees with their branches and the whales and the waves of the seas, all of them wept. والملائكة المقربون وأهل السماوات أجمعون, and the close angels and all the inhabitants of the heavens, they all wept on the martyrdom of Imam Hussain. يا أيها الناس أي قلب لا ينصبع لقتله. Oh people, what heart is not broken for his killing? أي فؤاد لا يحن إليه, or which heart does not yearn for him? أي سمع يسمع هذه الظلمة التي ثلمت في الإسلام ولا يصم. Oh, what kind of hearing hears about this void that was made in Islam by the martyrdom of Imam Al-Hussain and does not become deaf? Oh people, we were expelled and we were made homeless and we were taken to far-off lands. My dear brothers and sisters, can you hear this from Imam Al-Sajjad? That this brings about the arousal of ancestral memories. Oh people, we were expelled and made homeless and taken to far-off lands as if we were the children of Turks and Kabul, without having committed a crime or doing an abomination or creating a void in Islam. We were not informed about this situation from our forefathers. This is nothing but a fabrication. والله لو أن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله تقدم إليهم في قتالنا. By Allah, if only the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had approached them in our fight, كما تقدم إليهم في الوصاية بنا لما زادوا على ما فعلوا بنا. as he had approached them in the guardianship of us when they increased what they did to us. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he told the people about Imam Ali, about the wilayat of Ahlul Bayt. But Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he didn't tell them in such a way that would force them to give allegiance to Imam Ali alayhi salam, so that Imam Hussain would be martyred in Karbala, as Imam Ali alayhi salam knew that Imam Hussain would be killed in Karbala. But if Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had told them, please follow Ali, give allegiance to Ali, he didn't do this because the Ummah had to make the choice. The Ummah had to give the bay'ah. There is no force in Islam. You have to give the bay'ah of your own accord. So Rasulullah did not push them so hard on this situation. And because of this situation, the Ahlul Bayt were persecuted and martyred in Karbala. My dear brothers and sisters, this is the crying of Imam Sajjad. This is the mourning of Imam Sajjad, the embarrassment of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Imam Sajjad and Ahlul Bayt with the martyrdom. Allah allowed the martyrdom, my dear brothers and sisters. Allah wanted to give Imam Hussain the highest darajah. And when Allah wants to give you the highest darajah, expect difficulties, expect roadblocks, expect persecution. And if you don't have this, then Allah is being easy for you. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want to burden you because you may leave the religion. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the persecution to those who can withstand it, those who will stay strong in their faith and never leave Islam. As Abu Abdullah and Sayyidah Zainab and all the Ahlul Bayt who were embarrassed and humiliated at Karbala, my dear brothers and sisters. This is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah, as Allah subhanahu says, وَلَا تَجِنَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. You will not find any change in the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Allah's way, my dear brothers and sisters. And for us who were not there, we must mourn. We must cry about the tragedy of Ahlul Bayt alayhi wassalam. As Imam Sajjad continued, فَإِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. For we belong to Allah, and to Him we are returning. من مصيبة ما أعظمها وأوجعها وأفجعها. Imam Sajjad says, من مصيبة ما أعظمها وأوجعها وأفجعها. My dear brothers and sisters, do not let anyone tell you to not commemorate the persecution of Ahlul Bayt, not to commemorate the persecution that was happened to your ancestors. Do not let anybody tell you to get over it. My dear brothers and sisters, the persecution that happened to Ahlul Bayt, alayhi salam, this is meant for us to commemorate Ahlul Bayt, alayhi salam, and to fight against the persecution. من مصيبة ما أعظمها وأوجعها وأفجعها وكرها وأضعها وأمرها وأفتحها. What calamity is greater than it, and more painful, more heartbreaking, more severe, more horrible, more bitter, and worse than it? فعند الله نحتسب فيما أصابنا وأبلغ بنا فإنه عزيز ذو انتقام. So with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we seek reward for what befell us, and He is well informed about us, for He is mighty, possessor of vengeance. My dear brothers and sisters, this concludes our Majlis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and we desire to show you what Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam said. We wanted to show you the words of Imam Sajjad tonight. We wanted you to hear the words of Imam Sajjad. We want you to mourn over the tragedy that befell Ahlul Bayt. We want you to mourn over all the trials they faced throughout their lives. And we want this to make us better people, better Muslims. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم الخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم شاف مرضانا ومرضى المؤمنين والمؤمنات وعجل لوليك الفرج والعافية والنصر واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. مات الإمام حسين.